a few seconds. And keep your mic muted when you're not talking, please. Welcome everyone to Boondock Technologies' first live Q&A. In this event, you get to ask your questions and we get to answer them. It's going to be fun, mostly because I'm going to make Casey answer everything, or at least that's the plan. My name's Mark. I was the first team member on Boondock Echo, and Casey was the second. So Casey, tell us about yourself, buddy.
Hello, everyone. So it's been a good and amazing journey with Mark and Jesse building Boondock Echo, writing software, having a lot of issues, and but having fun more than anything else. It's been a great journey.
Thanks so much. Jesse, you're up.
I'm Jesse. Mark and Casey brought me on to help out with hardware after they won the Hackaday Prize, and we moved from prototype into beta testing, I guess it would be.
Mark, you're on mute.
Thanks, Casey. Usually it takes a few minutes to get people to start asking questions. So we've prepared a few just to get started. And these are questions that we've been asked anyway. We just don't remember who asked us of them. But here's a popular one. What the heck is a Boondock Echo anyway? You want to take that, Casey? Or you want me to?
Sure, that's a great question. So, Boondock Echo is a device that we built. You can connect to any of your two-way radios. It will record all the audio. It will transcribe all the audio gets to the cloud, and you can do a lot of AI magic. You can set up alerts. It can decode Morse code or DTMF. So all the magic happens on the cloud, but Boondock essentially records your audio from the radio, and you can play it anytime and from anywhere.
So all of the fancy features that your $800 and above radios have, the recording and all of that, we brought this down to the $15 radio level. And we didn't stop there. In addition to recording, we can transmit, we can play back, we can translate, we can look for keywords and send them out into the world, send you emails, send you SMSs, do IFTTT interactions. There is no limit to what the Boondock can do. Really, really excited about everything. Jess, did you want to add anything in there that we might have missed?
Yeah. Also, for those that don't have like a stable, like an always-on connection, your Boondock has an SD card, so it has lots of offline features that Casey's put into there. So if you're going like camping for the weekend or something, you bring your Boondock with you. When you bring it back on, you can play back the messages locally, and then when you get back to civilization, it'll pop that stuff up to the cloud. You can like look at a history of your communications and things. So it's not only online capable; it also has offline, some great offline capabilities.
And for anybody, thank you, Jess. Anybody out there who's wondering how do we ask questions live, send it to us in the chat. We're keeping an eye out. Um, Casey, this next question's for you. What types of two-way radio models can we use with the Boondock Echo? So, what all radios are available out there?
Thank you, Mark. So that's a great question, actually. And I would say Boondock Echo would come with a cable which you can connect to any K type radio. I hope it is visible. Any radio with K type connector can be used with it. And the good examples are your Baofeng, trusty old Baofeng UV5R. And there are so many other radios like Wushan and Quansheng and Kenwood radios. So anything with which has something like this on the side will work. But what we also did is you also have an audio jack. So any radio which has an audio out or a headphone out can be connected. So technically it covers every radio that's out there. And but by default it comes with this cable which connects to a lot of these radios or budget radios. You don't have to connect it to most expensive ones. Just leave one out, maybe running all the day and recording stuff. So uh, and over the time, the list has been expanding on what radios can be connected. And Jesse, how about you give us some highlight on the new attenuation levels that we are working on and the new version of Boondock Echo?
Yeah, so the new what we call the Sidekick board that interfaces with our audio board. We've switched from having the cable that's permanently connected based on user feedback and directions we want to go anyway to a TRRS connector that's compatible with the DigiRig pinout. So besides the K-type radios, if you can get a DigiRig cable for it, it's probably compatible with Boondock. And for people that use, so typically in a lot of those radios, they have speaker level output, which goes through the attenuation circuit. But then there's a lot of like police scanners and things, and a lot of the beta users really like using those, and those are line level. And then so we ended up having to, they'd go through the attenuation circuit, and then they would get software gained back up, and then be a little noisy. So on the new version of the Sidekick board, we've added a switch that you can switch, and it'll basically bypass the attenuation for anything that's line level. So yeah, DigiRig compatible radios and also line level for police scanners and things.
That's great. And actually, we've got a little bit of a, hopefully that'll show, but we've got a demo here for you so you can see what's inside the Boondock Echo device. Oh no, don't do it, background. Don't do it to me. You're killing me,
Try,
Small. So
try to
we've got,
put it close to your chest, Mark.
I'll put
Yeah.
it on my nose.
Hmm.
So we've got what Jesse's calling the Sidekick board, which is the audio interface and the rig control. And here we've got the audio kit. This is the dev board that we're just plugging this part into. So virtual backgrounds, I tell you. I guess we just can't have nice things.
No, I
Um,
think you did good.
yeah, it wasn't too bad. Hey, KC, can you walk us through how this thing works? I mean, if you've got somebody who's never seen a Boondock before, um, how does it work?
Absolutely. Right. So this is how you get started. Now, by the way, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel called Boondock Technologies, there are a bunch of videos, and we are putting more content over there on how to use the Boondock Echo. But so you have Boondock Echo. It's powered by a micro USB. You power it, and the Boondock Echo will start. And all you do is connect your radio on the other end. Let me show you how. So I have a Baofeng radio here. All right, here, and I plug it in. Oops, and I turn on the Boondock. Let me power this device as well, so you can see some nice lights. Okay, so as you can see, it's lighting up now. Your radio is listening to this whatever frequency you have put it on, and it is now ready and listening. So whenever there is a transmission on your radio, Boondock will start recording. It will store it on its own drive, like a micro SD card on the side, and it will also upload everything to the cloud. That's where I was saying earlier, that's where all the magic happens. You can set up alerts. For example, I want to set up an alert on whenever somebody says my call sign KD9VFU, I want to get notified. So you can do that. Or if you're interested in local crime, that's kind of interesting. You can put an alert on gunshot or violence. So if you have a radio scanner which is scanning the police or any signal, whenever that keywords hit, you will get a notification. And you have all the history of all your audio because it's on the cloud, as Mark was showing earlier. Mark, if you don't mind putting up this the our one. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Mark. So this is where you have all your audio. You see when it is received. Most interesting thing, if you see on actions, you can download your audio, can set a favorite, but you can also transmit. So what will happen is you transmit any message, it will be transmitted out of the radio which is connected. Now, right now, only certain radios are supported, and over the time that will increase, but it will also transmit. So you can use Boondock as a repeater if you want. It receives a message on one channel, and it transmits out. Back to you, Mark.
Thanks, KC. Outstanding. Can you show us some more? Since we already have the screen up, can you show us a little bit of what alerts looks like? Because that sounded pretty cool.
Of course. So if you go to the alert section, all right, let me just go back here. All right. So this is where all your, okay, let me just expand it. You can see everything. Uh, so all your alerts can be set up under monitor. So let's go and check there. So now you can see this. I already have some alerts here, and all these alerts are based on whatever I set here. So for example, now K9 ACM is an announcer on my local net, and I like to hear whenever he's online because I enjoy having conversation with him and join the lunch bunch. So I get notified whenever K9 ACM is on my local net. Then I can set up other ones like Cloudy or Gunshot. So you can set up all the alerts and you get notified. And let me show you how you create one. So you can put a keyword like, hey, I want to, just for example, KD9 uh, BFU. That's my call sign. You can put multiple alerts. You can also do wildcards. Like, for example, I live in South Lane. So I would say South Lane star. That means anything with South Lane. And after that, I'll get notified. So I pick my dock. So these are different docks I have. I pick my dock, I get email, and I can have my email, and I can also have a secondary email, and I save it. That's how you set up an alert, and whenever that keyword will be hit on your inbox, you will get a notification. That's how notifications are. I think they are pretty cool, and a lot of our users love the notification feature. Back to you, Mark.
Thanks, KC. Um, okay, so that's very cool. Jess, is there anything we missed there that you might want to pop in on, or did Casey cover it all?
I think he covered it all pretty good there. You can have multiple docs, as he's shown in like the My Docs page.
Not
Um,
yet. We'll wait for a question on that.
okay.
And there, I do have one lined up. Uh, what happens when you lose? This is kind of an internet connected device. If I wanted this for emergencies, I can't really expect in an emergency for there to be power or even internet necessarily. So, how useful is this when the power goes out? Up, wrong
All
one.
right. I'll take that one. I think that's a great question. And as we started building Boondock, we realized that a lot of people want to use it in an off grid or offline scenario. So we started extending the features. So what happens is if you do not have internet, so I will talk about two scenarios. You are at a place where you do not have any internet. You set up your Boondock Echo. You set it up in offline mode. It's very easy to do that. Before, when you plug it in, you hold the special key button and plug it in. It turns in an offline mode, and when it is in offline mode, it creates a Wi-Fi network of its own. So if you have a mobile or tablet or any device which can connect to Wi-Fi, you you connect to your Boondock Echo, and you can access all the features and all the audio files recorded on the Boondock Echo. So even without internet, it is still useful because it will you can log in and see all your messages. Let me give an example. You set up your radio and set up Boondock Echo, and you just walk away for whatever you want to do. And when you come back, you can play all the messages by just playing. It's like an answering machine. It will record all the messages, and you can play all the messages. What did I miss when I was not next to my radio? That's what makes it really powerful. And you have a log, you have all those audio files and that you can play and you can download using a phone even without internet.
Cool. I like it. I like it. I like it. And now one for Jesse. Are there any features for audio management like noise removal or auto leveling or even attenuation? I I think you're doing something on the hardware side of that, and then Casey's doing something on the software, right?
Yeah, so we have our attenuation circuit for radios, like we said, that are speaker level output that are meant to go to like a handset speaker or a like a speaker monitor, and that gets attenuated. And besides, there's controllable software gain, but there is a potentiometer in there for those that want to play around and have a radio that goes beyond the min or max that our default is set to, and that that attenuates it down. No noise reduction or anything on the hardware end at this point, because the software end does a much better and a much better job than the ESP, which we're Casey's really kind of pushing that thing hard right now. So I think he's going to talk about some of the AI noise reduction.
Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and just to add to that, we are working on both the levels. One, what can we do on the hardware side? Jesse talked about some of that, but there's a lot we can do on the software side. So we have worked on AI-based algorithms which will remove the noise from the audio, and there's so many other features that we are working on. Perhaps we'll talk about it, but we are on the software side. You can set up the gain level, and you can also automatically set the audio level using AI. How it works? Okay, let me take a step back. So when the audio is recorded, it goes to our server, and there's a process which will analyze the audio. And if the audio level is too low, it will automatically increase it. Or if it's noisy, it would just remove the noise from the audio. So when you play back, you are actually listening to clear audio. So that's the magic of AI and machine learning that we use on the server side to make it more useful to you.
Cool. All right, sir. Thank you to both of you. For anybody that's out there in TV land, we're more than happy to take your questions. In the meantime, um, absolutely would love for you to listen to Casey and Jesse some more. As you can tell, I can't really read and talk. I was trying to read the comments. Um, anyhow, I've got one for me. I've been picking on you guys. And the question is, can this thing be used internationally, or is it limited to certain regions? Right now, because we are producing a limited quantity, we're not spreading our market too far afield, and we're just hitting North America. There are issues that you run into when you start selling these things offshore. England, you're not allowed to listen and record certain frequencies, or at least we've been told. We haven't investigated that. Uh, Also, we can't hit our RF or electromagnetic interference targets that we need to with the module that we used on this board. But the next one that we're going to do after the crowd supply board, we'll be able to certify that and sell it in UK, United Kingdom, sell it in EU, European Union, a lot of different places. So you can buy it. Can you use it legally? I couldn't tell you. I do know that you can get yourself into a little bit of trouble if you start recording things where people have an expectation of privacy. Same thing in the United States. If you're recording GMRS and you're not supposed to be on that particular GRMS, you could potentially be seeing a little bit of trouble. So use it responsibly. Use it on ham bands. It's open, no problem. Or if you have a GMRS talk group, use it there, no problem. But don't go snooping on other people. Not cool, internet. Not cool.
Yeah, and Mark, I'd like to add that
Sure.
all our technology, the hardware and the software, it is open source. So it does not stop anyone anywhere in the world to set it up for themselves. And as Boondock Technologies, we are happy to help you out if you want to build your own. If you are outside America, where we are selling it right now, we are happy to help you uh, with you building your own Boondock Echo and using it.
Absolutely, Casey. I completely forgot about that. Thank you. Huge, huge point. So yeah, if you're upset about the cost, if you're upset about, well, they're not selling it in the UK, we'll teach you how to build your own. You can use our software. It's no problem. We open sourced it. Either way, we can get you there. All right. Time for a new topic. Everybody, Casey, Everybody loves mobile. Everybody's got a phone these days. Do we have an app? How do you use Boondock Echo and your phone?
That's a great point. So you can, we have built our Boondock Echo application to be compatible with the phone and different user interfaces. And let me see if I can do that right now. All right. So, so do we have an app? My short answer is no. Do we want to build an app? I'm really not sure about that. Reason being is you can access your Boondock in an offline environment from a phone, and we have made all the user interface friendly with a mobile or a tablet interface. So the design is very responsive. You can use it with any device, and you, as you can see, that some of the interface changes automatically, I would say, when you switch from one device to another. Let me switch it to the desktop mode, and as you can see now, you can see much more information. So it adapts based on the device that you are using, and uh, that's how it is. It can be consumed from any mobile device.
Wonderful, Casey. And I suppose while we have this up, um, is there anything else in the feature set you'd like to tell us about the automatic transcription, how that works and the limits?
Sure, absolutely, Mark. So like right now, what you're seeing on my screen is these are all the audio samples which were received on on the Boondock Echo, and this is a local repeater. And as soon as the message will come in, it automatically gets transcribed, and then you can, of course, you can access all of that. You can search your messages, and talking about the limits. Uh, so we have designed the transcription limit more like a fair usage policy. So if you are just listening to your local repeater, the kind of, even if you use the basic license option, you will have enough sufficient amount of transcription which will happen automatically. And when it does not, then you can always click the transcribe button and it will transcribe that. So there are limits based on what licenses you have. But if your goal is just to listen to a local repeater or local traffic, you will be fine with any license type. And if you feel that you are using much more, you can always upgrade to the next level, which will give you higher transcription limit. And if you go to our website, you can see all the information on how many minutes of recording is available. If you don't want to pay anything, you can be on the completely free subscription level, or you can upgrade as your the value you are getting out of Boondock Echo changes and you want to use more features. Over to you, Mark.
Okay, thank you, sir. Um, Next up, and again, this is Case. This is the KC show right now. I'll have some for Jesse here in a second. But let's say I want to listen to those recordings somewhere else, or I want to save them somewhere. What options do I have? Is that even doable?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So there are three different options of getting all the audio. One is, it's as simple as that you go to your interface and you download the audio recording and save it in your disk. But if you want to automate some process, you can use if this then that. We integrate with IFTTT if you are aware of that. So whenever a new audio is captured, it will, you can access that audio and do whatever you want to do. Maybe just put it on a Google Drive, maybe. And for enterprise level, if you are a company that wants to use Boondock Echo and also archive all the audio, you will get access to an API version of Boondock Echo, wherein you can periodically fetch all the audio files and store it elsewhere.
Cool. Thank you, sir. All right, Jess, you've been patient. Here's a question for you. It revolves around autos. What's your feeling about how this would do in a vehicle?
You should be able to install this in a vehicle and interface with your vehicle radio. The thing to keep in mind is the quality of your voltage translator. These currently the Boondock Echo uses a USB micro to power it, and not all USB 12 volt to 5 volt converters are made equally. And we don't have a list right now of preferred ones, but you could run into trouble if you have a really noise source, and it could cause things like your Boondock to like auto record with noise, but it should be pretty apparent when it happens. So just choose a good quality source, and you could run it in your vehicle with no problem.
Cool. Thank you, sir. That actually brings me to a point that I was going to bring up, but if I tell this to you, internet viewers, you have to promise not to share it with anybody. You can actually plug a battery into the Boondock Echo. Don't tell. Shh. We're not shipping a battery. We're not supporting it. Um, we might tell you the voltage that you should choose, but past that, secret. So don't tell.
So, Mark, are you saying it will also charge my battery, which is connected to Boondock Echo?
Why, yes, Casey, I
All
am
right.
saying that.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. Um, so we were talking about automobiles, and automobiles are relatively harsh environments. But there are certainly harsher environments, like something a police officer or firefighter would use. Would we, at this point in development, recommend the Boondock Echo device for harsh environmental conditions? I would say we're not really there yet, is my
No, we are
opinion.
not. If you are going to put it in a Ziploc, it's okay. But I would leave it to Jesse. We are not any IP level certification right now. And Jesse, what do you? When can we have a Boondock Echo that we can use it outside in thunderstorms?
Once we get full control over the board design and make an all-in-one, then we can take more care in designing the case and the button layout and things like that, and make it a more robust design. But as of right now, it's it's full of holes. It's not dust or waterproof.
Which is fine. It's still very early development. But yeah, we will get there, but not today.
Yeah,
Uh,
and
that that'll
you can always stick it in your own box and just run the audio jack out.
that's very true. It
That's a good
you
point.
you could make it NEMA. You just would have a very muffled speaker. Um, so here's a question I always have, I've seen this one a lot posted too. And by the way, for any viewers out there, ask us questions. We're happy to answer them. Um, but here it is. What's to keep this stuff from just going into a landfill? And I mean, what are we doing to fix stuff, to repair stuff, to maintain it? Heck, what's the life cycle expectancy of these things? Do we have any idea of any of that yet?
Let me try to answer that. So, when we started building Boondock Echo, our philosophy was that we want to keep the designs open. So we are not closed source. We are not like, oh, you change the firmware and it stops working. We kept it open so that you can, if you want, you can build your own. And if you want to fix it, it should be rather easy to fix. And because we have open sourced all the design, and Jesse can talk a little more about it, that our openness for you to tinker and tinker with Boondock and also fix it. Uh, Jesse, how would you say is complexity in terms of making changes or fixing when something is broken?
Well, the boards, so right now it's a two board design, and the boards individually are not the most, they're not super costly. You can buy the audio kit main board for multiple different vendors, to replace that side of it, and the attenuator circuit, it, that board is isn't too bad. And if you want to design your own attenuator circuit, with your own values, your own potentiometers, it wouldn't be that hard because it just interfaces with like a ribbon connector and then a couple of audio jacks. So it's not too hard to hack and do yourself. And like Casey said, it's all open source, and we're there to kind of walk people through that if needed.
Cool. Thank you both, gentlemen. And then I assume too that question, while it doesn't ask it, I'm going to ask it anyway. What are we doing about supporting our customers? If somebody's got an issue at 8 p.m. on a Sunday night, can they just pick up the phone and call somebody? How are we communicating with people? So I can take that one since I haven't had one in a minute. We have Discord, which provides you direct line to our developers. We have a team of developers offshore. So we should be able to get you during business days a 24-hour response to your request or your issue that you're trying to troubleshoot and work through. Jesse, Casey, and I also hang out in the Discord. We expect that after we get a few of these things out here, we are going to see some problems that we didn't see during beta testing. And that's okay. We'll work through them together and we'll support you wherever we can. So I know that's not necessarily asked, but I figured I'd ask. All right. Um, how often are we going to update this thing, Casey?
Right, that's a good point. So I would say, in terms of how frequently we are planning to update the firmware, uh, right now we have nightly builds, and so every time I find a bug, I fix it and I upload it. But when you start using it after we go live, I would expect that you will have stable builds and we'll have a build once every month. So whenever you want, you can update your Boondock. But if you have any bug, you report us that for some reason you have a bug and you want it to be fixed. That will be more instant. We can create a build just for you, just to fix that. But we plan to have a new build every month because we want to keep adding functionalities and keep making it more stable and more things you can do. We'll definitely love to have a lot of feedback from our users to understand what works and what doesn't, so we can keep updating. So you'll be seeing a new firmware every month.
Wonderful.
Can can we
Thank
also get into all the ways you can update the firmware, Casey?
Oh yeah, that's a great point. So this is another thing which we learned early on is it's a Boondock Echo. It's a ESP32 device inside, and you can upgrade the firmware four different ways. One is okay, so two of them is when you are connected to internet. You have internet, your Boondock Echo is connected to internet, and one update we can push it automatically. That means we have a new firmware, you'll get notified, hey, we have a new firmware, we are updating your Boondock Echo. So this will get automatically updated. So if you, oh, sorry,
What are you looking to do, buddy? Do you
I
want to
was
show your
about to
screen?
I was about to click somewhere else. Okay, so you can set up your Boondock Echo to automatically update, and it will get updated whenever you get a new software update. The second option is you connect to your, let me show you. Right. The second option, once again, when you are connected to internet, is you go to Boondock Echo website, and we have a firmware update option here. So let's look at this one. This is where you'll get to see all the firmware. So you see that there's a stable firmware, there's a nightly build, and there are some admin level firmware which we are right now we are testing. As a user, you won't see it, but you can pick the firmware and select your Boondock Echo. Let me just show that. It won't take much long. And oops, I want to make sure I get my. All right. So connect your Boondock Echo. You will see your COM port and you connect it and you can install the firmware. It's as simple as that. And for now I'll just show you. You can also see all the log and events. This goes back to point like how do you debug? If you have a problem, how do you fix it? You can actually connect your Boondock Echo. You can download all the logs and email it to us so we will know, hey, what's going on with your Boondock Echo. So that's the second method that you can update your firmware. And the third way is, let's go to the settings. All right. And you will have an update option here. You can also pick, so let me tell you the difference. In the first example, I was on the machine and I connected the Boondock Echo to my computer and I updated it. But this option, you can update from anywhere. Let's say you are not at your machine, your Boondock is connected on a USB charger or something. You can pick the firmware and update. It will remotely push the firmware to your Boondock device. You don't need that Boondock to be connected to the internet. So that's the third method. There's a fourth method is you can just take the take the latest firmware, put it on the micro SD card, and there is take your micro SD card out of your Boondock Echo, put the file on micro SD card. This is when if you're not connected to internet in a situation, you can just put the latest firmware on the micro SD card, restart your Boondock Echo, and it will update to the latest firmware. So we give you multiple methods or different ways to update the firmware. You can fix your problems rather easily by using any of these methods. Over to you, Mark.
Wonderful. Thanks, Casey. Um, so next, I'm just going to talk with Jesse and I for a minute while Casey pulls something up that I sent to him in the private chat there. Um, and I'm just wondering, Jesse, where's some other potential use cases for this? Okay, so I can record two-way radio, but maybe you and I can just ping pong back and forth and spell out a few other places that other ways that you could use this to make this a useful device.
Yeah. So you could there's a feature called dock pack, which we might get to talk about later, but you could link multiple radios via a dock pack, and so like you could use the internet as a hop. So if you have like a mountainous region, kind of like where you are, Mark, and you wanted to talk around it, you could talk on one radio, it'll route over the internet to the other radio and transmit out on that one, bypassing some tough terrain. That also kind of makes it like a repeater in that mode, if you link multiples together on receive and transmit.
Absolutely. But it's not just limited to amateur radio. You could use this in a commercial setting. A lot of factories have radio, heck, even hospitals have nurses with radios on that are always communicating back and forth. Factories have workers communicating back and forth. There are some production lines that will lose, tens to hundreds of $1,000s an hour when they're down. So a line down event's a big thing. You need to know when that's happening immediately and sending those notifications out to the managers that need to be notified. We can do that faster than I think anything else on the market today, other than an employee screaming it and hearing the audio. But even
Hmm.
then, we're using radio waves, so I think we can beat it. I don't know. We need to, race the flash, and we'll see what happens.
Yep.
All right. Casey, one of the big questions has got to be price. And I've asked you in the chat there to bring up our price sheets there so we can talk to people. Now, here's the thing that I will offer you before we bring this up. You don't have to give us money. We open sourced the software. That means you can light up and turn on your own server. So if when you see this, it's like, well, I hate subscription prices. I never want to subscribe to anything again. I get it. I totally get it. Subscriptions suck. Adobe started it. I'm pretty sure my memory could be faulty, but I think Adobe started us down this little train as a society, and this is just where we ended up. So choo choo. Thanks Adobe. Um, you got to pay. And the reason you have to pay, by the way, is because we have to pay. Right now, and we're still a fledgling company, but right now it costs us, you know, say $10 a user a month. Well, our first plan starts at 5. We can't live like that. for very long. We can do it for a little while, but we need to actually make money to survive, to pay our employees and our offshore team, to build the devices. So just keep that in mind. If you don't like the prices, ignore them because you can build your own and do anything you want. All right, KC, show us what you got, buddy.
Yeah, to your point, Mark, I would say if you want to use it in a completely offline environment, you don't need internet, you don't need a plan, and you don't even need to pay us because we have a free intro option. You can have one Boondock device, and you can have 7 days of free cloud storage. So all your audio will be there. You can download it if you want, and you will have a ton of on storage device on device storage. So you can have a lot of audio on your Boondock Echo without really subscribing to anything. But depending on your needs, you can have a casual user, and which is $5 a month, and you can see that you have 30 days of audio recording, and then you get a lot of you also get uh, some automatic transcription. You want to use push to talk, and you want to remotely transmit. If you want to use our cloud services, it's just $5 a month. I do not think it's much, and then you can advance as your need grows. You can advance to different levels, and you can be advanced user, power user, and enterprise, which is more focused towards organizations. But as you can actually go to Crowd Supply and see all the details. You don't want to pay for a power user, you can be a casual user, and you can just start adding on to other add-ons that we have. But if you want fully blown, if IFTT integration and third party APIs and everything, it is $25 a month. And but you can choose what you want. If you're getting that value out of it, subscribe to the options that we have. If you don't, you can always use fully offline, fully free, and we plan to keep it free forever. And as a guarantee that if something happens to our website or we raise the price, you have the access to the source code, and it will always be open source for you to build your own.
So just driving it home, you can build your own. It's not going to be as easy as just throwing some money at the problem and making it go away, though. So we like money. Feel free to throw it at us. We totally okay with that. All right, sirs. Thank you for all of that. You guys have been great, but we're not done just yet. What's next? I mean, once we buy this device, people buy this device. Are is that it, or is it going to get better? What's going on with development?
That's a great question, Mark. I will take part of it and let Jesse talk a little bit more. What are we focusing on? I think number one focus we have is how can we support more and more radios? How can we make it compatible with more radios? And Jesse will talk a little more about that, about the new audio codecs that we are working on. Multilingual support, that's the next big one. We want you to hook up Boondock Echo, and it can access up to 40 different languages, and it can also translate it. So you could be listening, you could do a DX, you could be listening to HF radio and people in South America and people talking in Spanish, and it will not only translate, it will also it will not only transcribe, it will also translate from any language to another, and you can pick that up. That's the second big one. Then we are working on enhancing the transcriptions. We are adding digital modes. It can decode your DTMF signals. It can decode your Morse code. And we are over the time we want to add more and more digital modes of decryption and decoding to the audio. And the last one, Mark, this is interesting. We also have a Bluetooth module in our Boondock Echo. We have not used it. So at some point of time, you should be able to connect to maybe a Bluetooth headset or your phone, or use the power of the Bluetooth connectivity to access the apps. There is so much more we can do. So our hardware is actually more capable of what we are doing right now. We would like to expand on that as as we go. Jesse, you want to talk about the compatibility and the attenuation levels?
Yeah, so using the DigiRig pinouts, we're compatible with a lot of different radios in terms of just like the pinout. We don't yet know, if you'll have to tweak any of your attenuation levels, and we're hoping to build a compatibility chart that you've probably seen online before, where it's like, oh, this is we know, it should work with this. It's untested or it's tested, proven, and in that regard, we tweak the attenuation levels. This picture that Mark's showing here is when we went from Sidekick 2 to Sidekick 3. We tweaked the attenuation a little bit, and Mark did some board testing to confirm there was no issues. And I think it got even a little better because we decreased our overall resistance. So our DC bias went down, and some of our noise went down. Um, and that was, one of the main reasons for Sidekick 3. Um,
Yeah, we. I found, when I was doing this, because Jesse asked me to. In fact, he made me tell you. He looks nice, but he's mean to me. Internet mean. What we found was that the audio output levels across radios, across scanners, are just wildly different. We've got at this point two potentiometers on the board that we were using to try to adjust the attenuation for the input and output levels. And from clipping to, random noise, we found all sorts of stuff. So that's why it's good that we've got Jesse on board. He can take care of a lot of problems for us. I'd be still testing if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, and Mark, I just add a quick one. So, for a non-technical person like me, I did not know that the level at which our Boondock gets an audio microphone is different. A headphone jack is different than a speaker jack. I did not know that, and
yep.
until Jesse told us, Jesse did all the research. So we are focusing on anything from microphone level up to speaker level. That pretty much covers the entire spectrum of radios. That's what we are focusing on. Jesse, you want to talk about the new audio codec that we are working on?
Yes. So to to get a single board design and to unlock a few extra features, long term, we are working on the on the back end. We're working on some different investigating different codecs with the goal of providing more features, maybe being a little bit cheaper, um, easier to get chips. Some of the chips on the current design are not recommended for new designs, and are only available through, unless you buy it in the module like we have it there. It's available in China at LCSC, which is like Chinese DigiKey, not available in the States. So we're trying to find chips that are a little more available and give us some more features. So Casey and I are working on firmware and hardware long term to I guess do the next generation of Boondock, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop support on this generation. Casey's really packed a lot of things into the ESP32, and has a commitment to support this original Boondock for quite a while.
Wonderful, Jess. Thank you so much. And yeah, Boondock X is a year and a half. We don't really know. We need to get through Boondock Echo first before we come up with whatever the next Boondock's going to be. So great though that we're doing some R&D now though, because that does always take a long time to do those board spins and figure stuff out. So really appreciate that you're doing that. Um, excuse me, Casey. I see you've got something else ready to share. Are you ready for that, Casey?
Ah,
You're
sorry, I did not unmute myself. Yeah.
okay.
All right. So Jesse was earlier talking about uh, the new board design, and what we are working on is the Boondock Echo that will come out after crowd supply is over, and the one you will get delivered will be able to support lot of audio standards. And as you can see, if you go to digirig.net, we are not affiliated with them, but they make great hardware and they make a lot of these great cables which connect to different kinds of radios. You have Yaesu FT 890 or Zegu G90. You just need to get the cable and connect it to Boondock Echo, and it will be compatible. And we are we will be testing a lot of radios, but we might not be able to test like 200 different types of radios, but you can go to Digirig, look at what radios the cable is available. So maybe you have a Kenwood or a Linko GX16, you can go and check it out. And we, as long as it's out there, we'll be happy to make sure that it is supported. And mechanically, it will be supported by Boondock Echo because it uses the TRRS jack that we are using in Boondock Echo next release. And most likely, it is going to work. And if it doesn't, we are happy to help you out with how to modify. Maybe if you love making some changes to the cable, we'll be happy to help you out to make your radio work with Boondock Echo.
Wonderful. Thanks, Casey. All right. What now? A question for me. And again, if anybody out there in TV land has a question, just leave it as a comment. We've got Jesse looking for those, and we'll add it to the stream. You can get your questions answered live. All right. So the next question is, are there any discounts available for bulk purchases or nonprofit organizations? And the answer is yes, but not right now. Um, we're still fledgling. We haven't taken anybody's money yet. So we've got to figure out how to do that. Um, it is in our roadmap and even from the very, very beginning conversations that we want to help the community. We want to give these away if you've got a fire watch. Maybe you're elderly or you've lost your sense of hearing or whatever. We are absolutely looking to work with anybody and everybody. We just don't have the ability to do it yet. Um, but contact me, and I will always see what I can do for you. Always. All right. Next up, we did that. We did that. KC, Jesse, how do I order this thing?
All right.
I'm ready to buy. What do I do?
Well, our campaign on crowd supply is still on. Go to crowdsupply.com and let me show you.
Let me go to this
All you
link.
have to do is go to crowdsupply.com and just buy a Boondock Echo. Our campaign has been pretty good so far. We have got a lot of great support from our from the community. You can just buy one, but even after we, as you can see, let me just quickly refresh it. Okay, so you can see there is 45 hours left. So I would really want you to go to Boondock to crowd supply and buy one. And even if you do not buy within the campaign, after that, we do plan to have a second follow up, but I'm not sure how many more days it'll be. But that's where you can buy Boondock Echo.
Um, it ends soon. The the campaign ends at 4 p.m. Pacific on Thursday. If you don't have your Boondock Echo by then, you might be in the batch number 2, which could take a while because you have to fill up to hit a minimum order quantity before we can push it out to manufacture. So if you're at all interested, put your money down now. Don't even think about not. I'm just like, well, what if I use this for food? You don't need food. You can eat celery and drink water from the public fountains. It works for the wild rabbits outside. So we've only got time really for one question or statement each. And I'll, as the host, take the last one. But if you had 60 seconds with somebody right now, what would you tell them about Boondock Echo and why they need one?
I would say, you're not always at your radio, but you always want to be interfacing with it. So like it allows me to still be a part of nets and checking in on my local groups when I'm like, I just had a new baby. When I'm sitting upstairs holding the baby, I could be checking my net via my phone. And that's my biggest feature is being able to just uh, put my radio on the internet so I can connect to it anywhere. Even when I'm, at work on lunch, I can check how my radio is doing. And that's what I like my Boondock for.
Cool. Thanks, Jess.
All right. Actually, Jesse, you took half of what I was going to say. So, beyond using it to listen to my nets, when I started Boondock Echo hobby, when I started my ham radio hobby, I wanted to listen to nets, but I'm not there all the time. Lunch bunch happens between 12 to 1. I could not. So now I record that, and I'm more informed about what is going on around me using Boondock Echo. That's one thing. Second, I also am listening to the local traffic about the activity, like police and crime related activity. So now I get notified about whenever something of interest or something of risk is happening. And I also feel that having a Boondock Echo keeps me more ready for if shit hits the fan situation. But even if not, if I'm in an offline off grid scenario, I know that I'm more prepared because although I'm not connected to internet or the cell phones, but I can let my Boondock Echo listen to my radio while I'm out scavenging and hunting deer for the dinner. But uh, there are so many use cases. I love it for the for how it converts the analog radio, brings it to the digital world and the new 21st century AI age using artificial intelligence, machine learning, transcription. That's what I love about Boondock Echo.
Thanks, Casey. And I just have to ask, are there a lot of deer in Chicago?
That's a good question. I have to drive Jess to Jesse's house to get some.
All right. Why do I like the Boondock Echo? So 3 years ago, I was monitoring 8 frequencies simultaneously when a fire was burning just over the hill. I was net control for a fire watch. And when all of those frequencies popped at once, I had no idea what anybody said. And with radio, you don't get a second chance. Once those radio waves pass your antenna, you're done. So this is everything I dreamed for. I could take 8 Boondocks and hook them up to 8 Baofeng radios. I'm out the door for under $200 a frequency. And then we haven't developed the software yet, but it's relatively trivial for Casey and the team to do that for me. Is they can build all of that into a queued message display. So I could just have a big old TV, or probably it'll be a small projector on a screen, and it'll just show me, the fire trucks said this, animal control needs help getting a horse out. My neighbor at station 172 is going to take a trailer over there. So all those different frequencies that are competing and not communicating coherently, the net control gets the responsibility to bridge those gaps. I think it might even be achievable now, because the last time there was nothing I could do. I could have, might as well have had a panic attack for as effective a listener as I was. So I'm really excited. It's come a long way. This is the solution that I was hoping for and waited for years. And it's great to see Casey and Jesse executing it, because really they are the two hardest working members of this team. Man, I just sit around and applaud them. So, gentlemen,
Thank you.
you're awesome. Where's Jesse?
Mark, Mark, I want to answer a question that you did not ask.
Please, I can't point to two of you.
So, how did Boondock start? And when Mark and we were on a hack chat, and the hack chat was about how can we make ham radio more interesting so that more and more people adopt it? How do we bring it to the new age? And I personally feel connecting analog radios to the digital world, that's what we did with Boondock. And I do see that someday my teenager son, my Gen Z kid, like Gen Z kids, would be using radio technologies because now they have access to information and the radio waves and the audio from anywhere and anywhere and any device. So I feel that Boondock Echo also brings it to the new age of um, of technology, and uh, perhaps it will improve the adoption, and more people would like to use and adopt ham radio as a hobby.
Wonderful. With that, I would like to thank everyone who watched us today for watching us. Please go to boondockecho.com or Crowd Supply and get that little bad boy ordered. And if you do it now, you can still be in the first batch of production, which means you're going to get this thing all the much sooner. And my name is Mark. We've been
I'm
talking with Kaushlesh,
I'm
KC,
Casey.
and
Jesse.
Jesse. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel to reach out. We'd love to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Have a good